The Joe Rogan Experience.
So this is kind of crazy. We didn't know they could do that back then.
Well, before coming out here, I asked ChatGPT, how old are some of the stories written down in the text in the Hebrew Bible? And at least according to ChatGPT, it's 10,000 years ago. So
Oh my God.
Something may have happened at that time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's a very interesting finding. Oh, Sodom and Gomorrah, that's a great story. I'm working on this translation of the Hebrew Bible. I've got a Substack now. I've been putting out things every week, a chapter a week.
Yeah.
On my translation of the Bible, it's like 1,000 pages right now of commentary about the language and the grammar, the meaning, what's called the plain meaning of the text. Like there was a Noah with 3 sons and went on an ark. Yeah, so that's like my big project, but I'd like to do a smaller one about Sodom and Gomorrah and the figure of Lot. I think that's a really incredible story. I've spent about maybe 2 to 3 weeks looking at that. Lot, his virgin daughters, the men circling his house. They're asking to know him. He ends up, in a cave with his 2 virgin daughters. They get him drunk, and he sleeps with them. Or they lie with him anyway. Yeah, and out come 2 kids at a certain point, and they become very important. Later on, they're the beginning of the messianic line. So it's a very intricate, tale with a very. I think you can make some cool conversations between some of the main personages in the narrative. There was a book called The Red Tent.
Can I ask you about the Lot? Like how old was that story?
Wow, that must be. Well, it's an explanation of Sodom and Gomorrah, which is the around the Dead Sea. There was a conflagration of some sort there. Have any of your guests spoken about Sodom? What actually happened around the Dead Sea? It was quite catastrophic.
Well, tell us.
Well, the story of Lot, yeah. I mean, there was fire and sulfur pouring down on Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, it was the end of the plain. Yeah, so that's the southern part of the Dead Sea. It is a Dead Sea because of its high salt concentrations. It was kind of closed off from the coast. So it's at least a description of what took place.
What do you think it's describing?
Well, I mean, my perspective is
A volcano?
It actually happened. Yeah, but people think a volcano, some kind of volcanic activity.
It totally sounds like a volcano, right? And we know that there's been a bunch of those that have almost wiped people out entirely at certain points. The Toba volcano, that one?
No.
We got down to, I think we've looked this up before, but I want to say they think we might have gotten down to just a few thousand people.
On the whole planet?
Like 70,000 years ago. 70,000 years ago, there was a massive super volcano that went off, and it, plunged the Earth probably into nuclear winter. And they think that our genetic line entirely of the human race on Earth came from this few thousand survivors.
Joe, can we take a
Yes.
break?
You gotta pee?
Yeah.
Yes. We'll be right back, folks.
Seriously.
We're back.
Yeah, so we were talking about the alternative.
Yes. Explain
universe.
what you mean by that. Like that these things are happening in an alternative dimension.
Right. Yeah, I think they're happening in an alternative dimension. Like when you smoke DMT, you return to the same place each time. So there seems to be some reality, some DMT world that people enter into. And it's one of my volunteers, one of the subjects in the DMT research. He got a big dose one day, and then a few months later, he got another big dose. And he said that it was very interesting. He said things have just continued apace since his first exposure and his first entrance into that state, and things had gone on in the meantime, and he re-entered that world. So in that way, there's In that same manner, the world of the Hebrew Bible early on, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Noah, the Tower of Babel, all that took place at some different level of reality, which gradually made its way into ours. And once it made its way into ours, there's the archaeological evidence, the first temple, second temple, and so on. So there is a transition between, our world and that world kind of merged. But in the beginning, it was an alternative dimension. It's the same God, I think, but different dimensions.
So, is this your own personal conclusion?
Yeah. Well, when I was on the show last time, you're asking if I believe those things took place, and my answer then was I take it as if it were true,
right?
And then I started to think, how I would do that, like in what world would that be true? It'd be a different world,
right? I feel like I've always believed that they were trying to record something. I just didn't always trust that human beings were completely honest with their recollection of events. So that there's something that they were trying to write down. But was it really coming from God? Are these accurate events? What exactly happened with Noah and the ark? Like what really happened?
Well, 3 stories. Three levels. Mm-hmm. 2 of each, then 7 if one pair or 7 pairs of birds. Well, of every living thing.
Yeah, but like how's he feeding them? Animals eat other animals. The whole thing's nuts. You would need a lot more rabbits. You need so many animals to keep just the lions alive.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. How's he getting them all from all over the world into his stupid boat?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are wrong.
Yeah.
But the story of him being told that some shit is about to go down and you probably should, find some way to restart your version of civilization somewhere. There's probably multiple like the flood myth that we whatever you want to call it, the stories of the flood that you get from Epic of Gilgamesh, that you get from Noah. It's not just those. There's many different cultures all throughout history have a flood story, right? So it's probably likely that some crazy shit went down.
There may have been, there most likely was a flood. So what do you learn from it? Like how do you do better, or on what basis do you rebuild? So I think there's different models. The biblical one is interesting because it's lineage, from Adam to Noah,
right,
to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob and the tribes, and now.
So when you talk about things happening in an alternative dimension, like, is that what you think, like, the birth of mankind is as well, like Adam and Eve?
Well, I mean...
Pull this microphone up.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It just has an impact.
Yeah. The creation story. Man was created on the 6th day.
Right.
Along with mammals. Yeah, it's a cool story. It's stages. People say, well, 7 days, that's unlikely. Like that creation took place 7 times 24. I don't know, 148. Something like that. 148 hours, 168 hours. The whole world was created. But it's broken into stages. 7 stages. Which is one of the translations of the word that is usually translated day. It could also mean stage. It's the word yom. It could mean either a day, a period of time, a stage. So that's that's the answer that makes sense to me about the 7-day story of creation. Yeah. So man was created on the 6th day, and then was placed in the Garden of Eden, and those events took place. The stories themselves are just they're written down, and so people have been studying them for thousands of years.
Who do you think Lilith was?
No mention of Lilith in the Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
Where's the story of Lilith emerge?
Well, it comes from what's called midrash.
What's that?
Comes from a root, darash. It means to, explicate, to expand upon, to investigate. So what happened after Adam and Eve sinned? Did they have sex again? And they do have Cain and Abel and the ensuing stories. And then there's a third son, Shet, who is the inheritor of Adam's of his traits, his good traits and bad traits. He's like God as well. So there's a distinct lineage that is spelled out. Lilith was a demon. That she slept with Adam after the sin of eating from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. So there's a story that built up around the biblical story that they were separated. Adam and Eve were separated for a long period. And so who was Adam sleeping with? Well, it was expanded in the midrash that there was a demoness named Lilith who slept with Adam for a couple hundred years. And then Adam and Eve reconciled.
Whoa.
Yeah. So so Lilith is she doesn't appear in the text of the Hebrew Bible as such. So nobody knows. There's a mythology that's grown around Lilith as well. Well, isn't there some festival, some music festival called the Lilith Festival?
Lilith Fair.
Yeah. That's named after the spirit or the demoness who's.
You sure it wasn't like a lady named Lilith that she came up with it? Are we sure?
It was her neighbor, Lilith Smith.